Ba-dum bum bum ba-dum bum. Even the very last drops of almond chocolate milk are amazing. Super delicious. If you hate lactose-based drinks, this is just for you, my friends. The brand name is Almond Fresh. If you happen to have it in town, please do yourself a flavor and buy a carton of it because it's so damn refreshing, especially after a nice cup of bitter coffee. I personally recommend it. You'll thank me later. Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the wonderful interwebs. How are you feeling today? Hope you're doing great wherever you might be in this great planet of ours, which is sadly not Nexus. I know. I feel your pain. And honestly, I feel like Nexus would be a much nicer place to live, you know, considering how much outrage has been going on in certain places, like Ukraine, my home country. The government's so damn corrupted there, it's terrible. I don't even want to get into that whole conversation. Anyway, welcome back for yet another WildStar class recap where we pick a WildStar class and talk about it in great detail. If you have not watched all of the other WildStar class recaps I've done, you can click the annotations, which will be on top of this video, either to my side, to my right or left. I've done all the other ones. Otherwise, let's talk about the Stalker, the last one that we have to talk about. I'm really super excited to discuss it. I got the chance to play it today and yesterday, and I have to say, I really enjoyed it. And I don't typically play melee classes, but I have to say, I really like the Stalker so far. So let's talk about the WildStar Stalker. Who is this guy? So the WildStar Stalker is this sort of predator dude that uses claws instead of daggers or axes to ambush enemies and burst them down really quickly. So unlike typical rogue classes, the WildStar Stalker does not pickpocket chests or locks and does not steal things from enemies. So the Stalker is not this like archetypal rogue class from every other RPG game. No. It's this techie dude that uses technology to his advantage to go into stealth mode briefly and to go out of it to take advantage of this buff that you get from stealth. So, oh man, the WildStar Stalker is amazing. So, the Stalker in WildStar is a melee class. It has high burst potential, especially when hitting foes from behind and or when stealthed. Great evasiveness is involved with the WildStar Stalker, so you can dodge a lot of things. You can do that easily, especially with this class. You've got moves that purposely make you move out of a dangerous enemy telegraph. And you have a short cooldown based innate ability, Stealth. Stealth is your innate ability for the WildStar class. The WildStar Stalker, I'm sorry. So the races that are available for the WildStar Stalker are the following. On the Exile side, we have the Human, the Orin, the Bunny People, and the Mordesh, the Zombie Elves. So three races on the Exiles, and 3 more races on the Dominion side. On the Dominion, you can roll a Cassian, a Draken, and or a Makari for the Stalker class. So you have a total of 6 classes that you can pick from for the Stalker. Now, the armor type that's being used by the Stalker is medium armor. And the roles that can be fulfilled by the Stalker are DPS and tank. So this sounds interesting because if you think about it, if Stalkers can tank in WildStar and use medium armor, what does this mean? How do you lessen damage taken as a medium armor tank? Well, the Stalker tank actually is supposed to evade a lot of enemy attacks. That's how the Stalker tank plays out. So instead of taking more damage, Stalker tanks will usually dodge a lot of telegraphs, and they have abilities which specifically do so, that will purposely move you out, leap you out of an enemy telegraph. So skilled Stalker tanks will want to use these abilities to their advantage in order to lessen damage taken. So you can't play the Stalker tank like a warrior tank. A warrior tank will typically use abilities that reduces damage taken, or that like raises the resistance. So as a warrior tank, you can just stand there and take damage, or you can just simply move out of a telegraph. But with the Stalker tank, you can like use abilities that actually help you dodge enemy telegraphs, which sounds pretty amazing, and it sounds like there will be a lot of skill involved for Stalker tanking. Stalkers use a variety of tools at their disposal. Their main weapon are claws, which I've just mentioned. They use like these Wolverine style claws. Instead of daggers, they have claws. And their secondary weapon are devices. So they use amplification spikes, tether mines, nano darts, razor discs, missiles, all sorts of weird weapons, which are mainly used for CC. So devices are used to snare enemies, or to slow them down, or to group them up to do a lot of damage with an AoE ability, perhaps. And finally, Stalkers use Nano-Skins, which are like these super cool skins that you use to provide yourself invisibility. So that's like the Nano-Skins are basically part of your stealth mode, which is your innate ability, essentially. And as far as claws go, claws are basically a main weapon slot item. So those will be the things that you'll want to be looking for when you're destroying enemies and looting stuff from them. So if you're doing dungeons, raids, you'll want to loot claws because they are your weapon item if you're playing a Stalker. So Nano-Skins provide invisibility and reduce your move speed by 20% when you're using them in stealth mode. And they also provide you certain buffs. The resource type that Stalkers use is suit power. So it pretty much works out like energy, like the energy resource for the World of Warcraft rogue. You have about 100 suit power. It's like 100%. And it depletes easily if you use certain abilities. Certain abilities will consume a lot of suit power, and suit power can be regenerated whenever, like in combat and out of combat, and you can also lose it during combat if you're using abilities. So it's basically similar to the energy system for the World of Warcraft rogue. It's very useful for executing powerful attacks. Now, I'm just gonna read a little bit of lore on the Stalker. So stealth was a power in the past that was seeked by many Stalkers for several years. So Stalkers in the past didn't have access to stealth. They weren't as powerful as they now are. And so eventually Cassians, the leading race of the Dominion faction, they discovered something called omniplasm, which is like this mysterious elden goo that contains like these weird ass superhuman cells called nanites, which are only found in elden bodies. And like nanites supposedly alter the human body, or any other like humanoid body, and just it does crazy things to them. So with the omniplasm, with this elden goo, Stalkers were finally able to develop the Nano-Skin, which finally gave them the opportunity to become invisible. So that helped them a lot and made them what they are now. So that was a little bit of lore for the Stalker there. So the Nano-Skins are basically very diverse. There are a total of 3 Nano-Skins. They're basically considered stances. And if you have listened to the previous WildStar recaps that I have done, I pretty much mentioned the fact that every tank class, every DPS/tank class has a stance, has about 2 stances. So 1 DPS, 1 tank. But with the Stalker, here's a little special thing about the Stalker. Stalkers have 3 stances, so 1 more than the engineer and the warrior. So let's spend some time reading the 3 Nano-Skins. So the first Nano-Skin that the Stalkers have at their disposal is called Agile. So it's your balanced stance mode. It provides you a dash sprint/sprint regen, it's increased by 10%. Your endurance is increased by 10%. Your lifesteal is increased by 5%. And exiting stealth mode in combat increases your move speed by 20% for 4 seconds. So I'm assuming, I don't know if this is true, I don't know if I may be correct or not, but I feel like this stance mode will be good for PvP or for escaping enemies. But I personally don't find much use for this stance. Moving on, the second nano skin that is available for the Stalker is called Evasive. It's basically your tanking stance. So when you go into evasive mode, you get a deflect chance increase of 15%. All of your resistances are increased by 10%. Your threat generation is increased by 150%. And your assault power, which is your DPS stat, is reduced by 26%. So this is exclusive for tanks. Exiting stealth mode in combat with the evasive nano skin increases your resistances by 7% for 6 seconds. So you'll definitely want to take advantage of the innate ability, the stealth mode. And finally, we have the nano skin lethal, which is your damaging stance, your DPS stance. So your when you have lethal nano skin on, your damage output is increased by 22%. Your resistances, however, are decreased by 5%. All attacks, now here's the trick about this one. All attacks performed during stealth mode have a 100% to land as critical hits, which is amazing. So if you had to compare all these stances from each other, I would say that between the agile, let's look at the agile and the lethal for a second. So the agile is basically your balanced stance, while the lethal is very much made for DPSing, for doing a lot of damage. Lethal mode increases your damage, while agile just increases your movement speed and your regeneration, health regeneration. So if you want to recover quickly, if you're about to die, nano skin agile is really good for those moments when you need to survive, while nano skin lethal is good for dealing good amounts of damage during burst phase, or when you have to down something really quickly. Nano skin evasive is just made for tanking. In my personal opinion, I feel like nano skin agile doesn't have much use. Like I never find myself in a situation where I really need nano skin agile, but I feel like the developers might tweak some of the things for the nano skin agile and make it more useful, or maybe they'll just completely remove it from the game. I don't know. We'll just have to see. Maybe it'll be more useful in the end game of WildStar. Who knows? But these are all the 3 stances that are available for the Stalker. So Stalkers have 1 extra stance, 1 more than the Engineer and the Warrior, which is kind of surprising and cool. So let's read some in-depth information that I have retrieved from the Reddit AMA that was posted a while ago from CRB Asteriel, who is the Stalker and Esper class designer, and Mark Motzenbacher, the Warrior class designers. They were both on Reddit to answer a lot of questions, and they provided a lot of insight and info on the actual class. So first of all, let's talk and analyze the innate ability, which is stealth mode. So stealth for Stalkers is the innate ability, so you do not have to sacrifice an action slot to use this ability. It does not take up one of your limited action set slots. It is already there. You can use it whenever you want. Now you can also stealth in and out of combat, which is super rad. So this means you can stealth and find a lot of opportunities to do a lot of burst damage. Stealthing in combat will enter you in combat stealth, which lasts for a brief amount of time and enables you to get the same bonuses from abilities you get in full stealth. So you can get all the same bonuses when you're out of combat and during combat, which is pretty cool. When the Stalker exits combat, the cooldown on stealth is reset. So this provides some fluidity from fight to fight. Very good for PvP. And stealth, by the way, is on a 20-second cooldown if you are reusing it during combat. So it's kind of a long cooldown, but not too terrible if you're downing an enemy pretty quickly and want to move on to another one. So it just gets reset every time you kill an enemy. Pretty cool stuff. Stealthed Stalkers can't be detected when further than 15 meters away from their target. So that's also cool. When an enemy detects a Stalker, you, instead of getting out of stealth, certain visuals will indicate you that a Stalker is nearby. So you get you see like a silhouette of the Stalker, but at a much lower opacity. So you see like a transparent figure walking around you if you're seeing a Stalker within a 15-meter radius, that is. The stealth mechanic, there's an interesting stealth mechanic in the game right now for WildStar. So you can actually notice stealthed stalkers, if you see moving grass, leaves, or any sort of foliage. This is really interesting in PvP situations, I find. So I'm interested in seeing how you can really notice the stealthed stalkers. I feel like WildStar is a very skill-based game, and that's actually very good for an MMO. So I can't wait to see how that plays out in arenas and like competition, PvP season, and all of that. I want to see how that's going to go on. Moving on, there are currently no abilities which grant positional bonuses if used from the front side when fighting an enemy. So all bonuses that you get being as a stalker are when you're fighting an enemy from behind. So especially if you're stealthed, you do more, you deal extra bonus damage if you're hitting an enemy from behind. So that was pretty much the stealth, all of the characteristics of the Stalker's innate ability. Now the Stalker has no abilities that requires the person to be stationary. So as a Stalker, you do not have any ability that requires you to stand around to perform an ability. So any ability that you have as a Stalker, you can perform it on the move, which is super thumbs up. Now, claw weapons, as I've said before, only take up one slot item, not two, but one. So you don't need to, let's say, rerun the same dungeon for the claw that you want. You don't have to get two claws. You don't have to get another claw of the same claw that you got before. So you just have to get one. It's considered as one slot item. The Stalker brings a lot of utility to the table for raid groups, such as group buffs that grant lifesteal or increase deflect chance and deflect critical chance. Super cool. Now currently, how much you are able to DPS as a Stalker or as any other class entirely comes down to your skill and the difficulty of the encounter you're undertaking. So some encounters, some raid specific encounters may be more advantageous towards favorable towards ranged classes or melee classes, or maybe I don't know, for tank people. However, when you are at your top, when you're at the top of your skill, especially as a melee character, you should be able to avoid most damage while dealing a lot of DPS, while dealing a solid amount of DPS. So good Stalkers will know when to dodge and will learn how to position themselves and deal a good amount of damage. Nanites, which are part of the Stalker's gear kit, give the class the ability to heal, debuff foes, empower his abilities. Nanites can also infect foes by decreasing their strike through chance. That's their accuracy chance, their deflect chance, their mitigation, and also they can transfer those effects to the user, to the Stalker, and increase their own stats as long as the debuff remains. Stalker claws retract when the Stalker is out of combat, so it's just a cool looking animation. Whenever you're out of combat, the claws just go back into your like weapon wrists. Pretty cool stuff. Now, the Spell Slinger, not the Spell Slinger, god damn it, my brain is turning into complete poop. But like I've said before, the Stalker has a total of 3 stances, so 1 more than the Engineer and the Warrior, which is pretty interesting. And finally, Stalkers do not have special abilities or special professions that allow them to pick locks like rogues do in WoW or like rogues do in Neverwinter. So in WildStar, there are classes don't have class-specific professions. All professions can be learned by anyone. So I really like that idea. I feel like class-specific professions are just, I don't know, they narrow the gameplay for the player, and it's frustrating. So I feel like professions should be learned by anyone as long as you know what to do with them. So basically, that was all of the in-depth info I retrieved from the Reddit. Now let's mention some of the many abilities that are available to the Stalker. Now, first of all, we have an ability called Intimidate, which is a lined area of effect which causes the target to focus on the Stalker. So it's your tanking ability. We have Emergency Stealth, which makes the Stalker dash backwards, and by doing so, you also enter a limited stealth mode, which can't be broken when taking damage. So this is your oh shit ability. So it also removes your CCs, all the CC effects you currently have on yourself, but not damage over time effects. We also have an ability called Frenzy, which when used in stealth mode grants the Stalker an absorption shield, which is pretty neat. We have an ability called Augment Drone, which heals the Stalker and increases his maximum health for a short period of time, so that this is also a good tanking ability. We have an ability called Pounce. It's your engage ability. It's a gap closing ability, which makes the Stalker pounce towards its nearest enemy. And when the Stalker hits a foe by using Pounce, the latter is basically snared in place. And when tiered up, this ability also roots the enemy for a few seconds. Pretty cool. We have another ability called Cripple, which is a stacking debuff that snares your enemy, another snaring ability. Tether Mine, it's an ability with 2 charges. It is used to mainly tether a foe. Basically, it disables them from leaving a certain radius. So let's say a 15-meter radius. They can't leave within that. They can only stay within that area. So it's really good for PvP fights. We have an ability called Nano Dart. It's a ranged DPS ability, so it's good if you're trying to maybe engage a fight, or if you're trying to like dodge stuff or keep enemies at a distance for a short period of time. And we also have an ability called Overload, which deals damage while completely ignoring shields, enemy shields, that is. And when tiered up, it disables enemy shields for a short period of time. So this is a really cool ability for PvP or even for raids. If bosses have shields, you can just pop that thing on during burst phases and ignore the enemy's shields, which is super thumbs up. Now let's mention some abilities from the stream episode that was recently broadcasted on last Saturday, I believe. So we had like two builds that were showcased during the live stream. The first build is more DPS focused. So let's go over some of the many abilities that were shown during the stream. First one is called Shred. It's a basic attack used to build up some suit power. We have another ability called Impale, which is a single target based attack. It deals more damage when used from behind or in stealth mode, and it uses suit power, I believe. We have Stagger, which is your stun ability. Very good if you want to stun an enemy and then hit it from behind if you're not using stealth mode. We have an ability called Ruin. It's an AoE instant damaging ability that also applies a dot for about, I'd say, 5 to 8 seconds. Really good if you have a group of enemies fighting you. We have another ability which is called Analyze Weakness. It basically marks foes, making them more vulnerable, and when you mark enemies, you deal more damage to them. And it's really effective when you're comboing it with Stealth and then Impale. Really good ability. We have another ability called Punish, which is only available after having landed a critical hit. It also regens suit power, so it's a DPS ability. We have a support ability called Razor Disc. It's a 30-meter long ranged ability. It is used to deal damage and to reduce your target's armor. So it's also a good like debuffing ability, just like Analyze Weakness is. And the final ability for this build is called Clone. It creates a copy of the Stalker, and it can be used to trick enemies in PvP situations, mimicking the Stalker's abilities. If upgraded through the AMP system, the Clone can also taunt enemies. So this is also a good ability for tanking. So if you're trying to like mitigate high damage from a boss, you can just pop that on and have the damage be taken by your Clone, which is super neat. Now, they also showcased a second build, which I'm gonna mention right now. So the first ability that was part of this second build is called Whiplash. It's a support ability, basic attack that generates 25% health. So it's your basic tanking ability. We have Nano Field, a support ability, which is a good sustainability, and it can be used twice in a row within 4 seconds. The first hit for Nano Field will basically leech life from all enemies. 25% of lifesteal will be transferred to the Stalker from all current enemies. And the second hit basically does burst damage. So it's this like very good ability if you're in PvP, if you're trying to like survive and trick your enemy, or for raids, if you're like trying to down a boss really quickly, but if you're also taking a lot of damage, you can also use that for healing as well. So it's this like damaging / healing ability. Very cool. We have third ability called Collapse. It's a utility ability which pulls all enemies to you within 10 meters. Very good for grouping little mobs, for AoEing them down really quickly. Another ability that was shown is called Reaver. It's a taunt ability. Very useful if you need to taunt a boss or an enemy, you know, right now. Like if you're seeing someone that's pulling a boss from you, Reaver is really good for pulling that boss back to you if you're a tank. Now we have another ability called False Retreat, which leaps the Stalker back by 15 meters while placing a beacon down from his initial position. So then you can then reactivate False Retreat to move back to that beacon. So it's very useful for dodging a dangerous enemy telegraph. So for tanking, it's especially useful if a boss is gonna like unleash a deadly telegraph. This is really good for that kind of situation. You use False Retreat to leap back, and then you leap back in to continue generating threat on the boss. We also have an ability called Steadfast, which is a support ability that procs and deflect and decreases your deflect chance by 25%. I think it actually increases. I think I might have just, I think I wrote a typo there. Anyway, we finally have an ability called Stim Drone, which is a utility ability that heals and increases your health pool. So it's really good for tanking as well. So the second build was more focused on tanking, while the first one was more about the DPS side of the class. So those were pretty much all the abilities that I've retrieved from the Reddit AMA and the stream. And by the way, the stream episode for the Stalker went pretty well. I kind of wish they showed more of the dungeon content and the tanking mechanics for the Stalker class, but they showed a lot of PvP action, and they actually showed us arenas to us for the first time. So that was actually pretty neat. But I feel like the Stalker right now is a very high burst class. In early levels, it does a lot of damage. You can stay at 90% health at early levels and just burst down enemies in a matter of seconds. It's amazing right now. I don't know how the class feels in later levels. I don't know about that yet, so I'll just have to play the class and see for myself. But for now, I feel like the Stalker has a lot of potential. I have not tried the class in PvP yet. I might play it soon in Walatiki Temple, the first battleground of the game, and see how the Stalker feels. But I feel like the Stalker overall has a lot of potential. It has a lot of CC abilities. Very good for like stunning enemies that are dangerous. And I don't know, I just feel like the Stalker is a fun class. So that was pretty much all of the information that I have found for the Stalker. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of the class recap and what you think of this class, and let me know which class you're actually going to roll when the game launches. And if you're going to be playing the Stalker, let me know which role you want to fulfill the most, DPS or tank. Again, thank you for watching this WildStar class recap. And again, if you have not seen all the other ones that I've done, please feel free to click the annotations, which I have listed at the beginning of this video. Thank you for watching, and as always, love you. See you soon. Goodbye.